Washington who told me this is no joke. This is a major emergency. Africa, countries rising up saying, get the heck out of our countries. Stop stealing our minerals. If you're an investor, this could be an amazing moment. I'll show you more about that in just a moment. But first, many of our Western leaders are freaking out because stuff is about to hit the fan. The dominoes are starting to fall. This weekend, we saw dramatic developments all across Africa. Russian flags being raised in the air throughout the continent. First to Niger, the country that started it all. Russian flags everywhere. And according to France 24 news service, the government of Niger has now signed a contract with the Russian Wagner group for security. Yes, Wagner forces in Africa going to protect Niger. And they need it because the coup in Niger has entered the point of no return. The people rising up against French and United States influence. The Western powers that have controlled Niger for decades are being pushed out. And this weekend, the military leaders now say that Niger will no longer be a European colony. We're done with that. And they've demanded that all French soldiers and any United States influence get out now or face the consequences. Tens of thousands of people marched in Niger this weekend celebrating their independence and shouting no to foreign military bases, no to poverty, no to the West stealing their uranium, their phosphate, their gold, and other minerals. Get out now. Other African nations now showing their support for Niger and starting to say the very same thing. Get out of our country. This weekend, the people in Senegal rising up against Western colonial governments controlling their country. Yes, the CIA, MI6, other Western intelligence services are doing whatever they can right now to hold on to power in these countries with their puppet governments. That's why you saw crazy Victoria Nuland, who of course helped create the coup and the overthrow of the Ukrainian government, is now running into crazy mode trying to see what she can do in Africa. Colonel Douglas McGregor says the people who've had their minerals stolen for years in that country are saying, enough is enough. Get out of my country.
The Africans are fed up with it. And so this is an example in Niger where a supposedly U.S.-backed government with a U.S.-trained military suddenly turned around and said, I think all of you white people need to get out of here. We've had it with you. Go away. Go. Europeans leave.
Again, we'll get to the uranium and the gold part of this story in a minute, which is arguably the most important part of this story, especially if you're an investor. But first, the story that no one's talking about is the massive natural gas pipeline that is nearly set to go online. Now, it starts in Nigeria and it flows up through Niger on its way into Europe. Chevron and the United States have already invested $13 billion into this. And after the Nord Stream pipeline destruction, Chevron stepped up production to get this pipeline up and running. And now the people of Niger are saying, wait a second, why are we going to allow a pipeline to flow right through our own country into Europe? You are doing nothing for us, and yet you continue to steal from us. So sorry, no more pipeline. This is why Europe is terrified this morning. And it was always going to be a very cold and dreary winter because of the natural gas destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline. This winter could be even worse now if this pipeline is not allowed to go into action in Africa. Niger is saying, sorry, you're not going to use our country to transport your natural gas into Europe. Get out of here. Get out now. Europe is facing catastrophe with no Nord Stream pipeline coming from Russia. The African pipeline was their salvation. And then add into it uranium and Europe's nuclear power. The United States gets over 50% of its uranium from Russia. Despite all the sanctions of the United States has placed on Russia, they left uranium off the list. Why? Because the United States is so heavily dependent on Russia for uranium that Putin could literally flip the switch and literally destroy the American economy by turning off the lights. Think about that for a minute. They sanctioned the hell out of Russia for everything else. But, oh, we need your uranium, so we won't sanction that. Just keep sending it to us. They could turn off the lights with a flip of a switch. And now Niger, the French, the United States have essentially been stealing uranium from these African countries for decades. And again, these countries are saying enough is enough. We are sovereign countries here in Niger, in Senegal, and in Guinea, and we are going to keep our own minerals, make our own decisions. And Russia is giving them that option. They had the big African summit in St. Petersburg last week. And Vladimir Putin and Russia said, we want you to keep your own sovereignty. Oh, and by the way, we are also going to wipe away all of the debt that you owe us. Billions of dollars wiped away. Think about that for a second. We're not going to steal from you. You can have your sovereignty, and we're going to wipe away your debt. Sounds like an attractive proposition for some of these countries, right? Not a slave to the West any longer. Listen to RT's Africa Bureau Chief Musa Ibrahim explain how the people of Africa want to gain back their wealth, their minerals, stop giving it away to America and Europe.
What people want is to gain back their wealth, back their uranium, their gold, their iron, their phosphate, their oil, their gas. And this scares the West because this means the true democracy will take place in Africa when people actually own their own land and the wealth of Africa does not go untaxed, unsupervised from the mines in Niger to the banks of Paris and the financial sector in Britain.
He's right. Niger's coup isn't a singular event, but it's actually a larger narrative right now and a pushback against Western neocolonialism. Africans seeking to regain their national sovereignty. Yes, they might be independent, but with a U.S. military base and French military bases here stealing all of our minerals, how exactly are we sovereign? Imagine if China did that to the United States. Oh yeah, we're America, we're a sovereign nation. But here's Russia and China literally building military bases in our own country. Would we stand for it? No. Africa saying, hey, we are rich in uranium, but we don't get to benefit from the wealth of this mineral because you steal it from us. So guess what? We are going to enrich our own uranium and then we'll sell it to you and you'll pay us a fair market price for it. No more theft. Africa is in the middle of a revolution. That's the news update part of today's video.